Welcome to our Tuesday talk. Today we're going to be talking to recruiters. We have Brian Case here. He's the manager of corporate talent management at PPL. We have Tori Hoffman from Kohl's. She is a field recruiter for early talent. And we have Catherine Maniscalco from WebFX. She's a talent acquisition strategist. So thank you all for attending and coming, and hopefully we'll be able to answer a lot of your questions. I'm going to lead the discussion for about 30 minutes, ask some generally broad questions, a feel for where our recruiters are at with their organizations. And then we're going to let you guys take it from there and ask any questions that you would like answered as well. So if you do have questions, you can put them in the chat. I'm going to start off by doing a quick poll. You'll see it on your screen, hopefully. And let's see, relaunch the poll here. There you go. If you could just let us know if you're a student, faculty from Penn State, or staff, if you're maybe from another university, that would be great. If you're a recruiter, employer, or other that isn't listed there, that would be fantastic. And while you're all doing that, I'm going to start with our first question, which is, would you please give us a brief overview of your company and some of the positions you frequently hire for? And Kat, do you want to start us off from
Sure.
WebFX?
Yeah, so WebFX is a full service digital marketing agency. We're in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, so only about an hour and a half from Penn State. And we do everything from web development and design to social media marketing to copywriting and blogging and kind of everything in between. So we hire for all of the positions that kind of take all of those different services we offer clients. So we have an internet marketing department with positions in analytics and just kind of general marketing, a focus on more creative. And then we have a social media department. So we hire social media specialists. We have internships in most of our departments as well. We do have a sales department, pretty small but mighty. We have an interactive department, which is our developers and designers. So computer science majors might find a home there. Project management, those are really just to name a few. So we welcome all majors and usually have a spot for all of you.
Great. Tori?
Yeah, hi everybody. So I'm Tori Hoffman. I live a little bit outside of Philadelphia. I work for Kohl's Department Stores. I'm a field recruiter for our early talent team. So I recruit specifically for our stores programs, which would be store management. So recruiting for interns and then also management trainees who are on the path to become assistant managers with us after a 12-week training period. For anyone who's not familiar with Kohl's, we are one of the largest department stores in the country. We have a little bit over 1,100 stores across the nation, and then obviously a strong online presence as well. So I recruit really mainly management, marketing majors, some labor employee relations, and other liberal arts general majors. We do not recruit any specific only majors for the field positions or for the store management roles. We are open to every major. We just tend to find success and interest in certain specific majors that we see most often. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. Go ahead, Brian.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Case. I'm manager of corporate talent management for PPL. For those of you that may not be familiar with PPL, if you live east of State College, we are an energy company located in the eastern part of Pennsylvania. We're headquartered in Allentown, Pennsylvania. We are a stock-owned company, Fortune 500, about the 7th largest energy company in the US. In addition to our business in Pennsylvania, we also own Louisville Gas and Electric and Kentucky Utilities in the state of Kentucky. We own Western Power Distribution in the United Kingdom. And our most recent acquisition was Safari Energy in New York City, and they are a solar engineering solutions company. So we employ about 12,000 people, and we hire just about any major you can think of in a large corporation. So probably our number one hire is engineering. We also hire a lot of computer science, information technology, cybersecurity, supply chain, accounting, finance, tax, business, customer service, you name it. We hire a lot, and our CEO is actually a Penn State grad. Our CEO to be, as our current CEO is retiring, is also a Penn State grad. And Penn State represents a large portion of our workforce at PPL. Happy to be here.
Thank you very much. So we'll start with our next question, which is, how has your organization responded to the COVID-19 in terms of hiring new graduates for full-time positions and or internship roles, both in terms of offers already given and looking forward? Brian, do you want to start us off with that one?
Sure. As of right now, and as you can imagine, things are subject to change day by day, but as of right now, it has been pretty much business as usual. We do continue to hire and fill the full-time positions that we've been looking to fill. It is safe to say that the large majority of our entry-level positions are filled by former interns. We do look at our interns as our primary pool of candidates for entry-level positions, although there are certainly exceptions to that. We do have a rather large internship program. This summer in Pennsylvania, we expect to have probably about 50 interns. And as it stands today, that is still moving forward. There is some work going on behind the scenes in terms of looking into, could some of them potentially turn into virtual positions instead of being with us at one of our locations. But as things stand today, there is not any disruption to the internship program.
Great, thank you. Tori?
Yeah, so for Kohl's, similar situation, we're definitely monitoring it as time goes on, but we have communicated with all of our interns and full-time hires, anyone who has accepted an offer. We have communicated with them over the past couple of weeks that in terms of the internship, our plan is to still continue the internship, have it be in person. This is both for the stores roles that I recruit for, but also the corporate roles. We have close to 300 corporate interns in the summer and around 200 stores interns, so about 500 interns company-wide. We have adjusted the timeline on that internship though, so we've pushed it back a couple of weeks. It usually starts the very beginning of June. It's now starting closer to the end of June, and it will be shortened. So it will be a 7-week program. It will end the beginning of August. So it will have to be shortened a little bit just so we can push that back and hopefully have no issues with a start date and being able to have it be in person. From an internship standpoint, we have definitely been brainstorming some ideas if there are positions that could be a virtual internship, especially like some of the technology roles and things of that nature. It is though, like I said, we do need to continue to watch the situation. Obviously right now our stores are not open to the public. So for a store management internship, our stores definitely need to be open. So we are hoping that we're back up and running in plenty of time to be able to go with the contingency plan we have in place now, which would be that 7-week program, just pushed back a little bit. For our full-time offers, we sent an email out saying that you definitely still have a position with us. You will be starting with us this summer. The only really question mark right now is in terms of that start date. We usually have our largest starting full-time class begins in early June. So that may not be possible. We may need to adjust that to later in June or possibly early July, or even go later than that, hopefully not. But we are still excited to have anyone who accepted a full-time offer with us start with us. And same with the internship. It's just monitoring that to make sure that we have the environment and everything is safe for them to be able to work with us. In terms of general hiring, though, and continuing to hire anybody new, we are essentially on pause for that right now. As you can imagine, retail is definitely one of the industries that's being hit the hardest. Without having our stores open, we're running just an online business at this point. So we really have had to stall all hiring at this point. We can't bring on additional people, but we are, very happy that we can at least maintain the offers that we've had out there and that have been accepted. But at this point, we really aren't recruiting anymore for the rest of the year, and we'll just need to revisit where things are at for the fall, and hopefully can start up in the fall as we normally would.
Great, thank you, Tori. And Kat, where are you?
Yeah. Absolutely. So we are definitely lucky enough to say that business really is kind of continuing as usual. We're continuing to progress in our growth. So we are still adding team members in the form of previously offered internships and full-time positions. And we're also looking to add to new positions. So while COVID has definitely allowed us to assess and pivot in our growth, just making sure that it's controlled and very relative to like our needs and our clients' needs. We're excited to continue to add clients to our service roster, which means that we can continue to add opportunities to our team, our opportunities to students in the form of full-time and internship opportunities, just to continue being able to provide that service to our clients.
Excellent. And just a reminder, if you do have a question, you can put it in the chat pod and we will hang on to it and then make sure that we get those questions out to our panelists. So the next question is, how is your organization dealing with this rapidly changing environment, just in terms of general hiring practices? I think you spoke a little bit about that. Is there anything else you want to add regarding how things are changing so quickly? Are you meeting frequently? How is your company sort of responding internally to getting the word out and how you're making those choices?
Is that me? Yeah, so the perk of working in the digital sphere is that our work can really be done from anywhere. So we frequently chat and keep up to date with all of the kind of suggestions from the CDC and DOH and everything like that. But really, we've just had to make some adjustments when it comes to our interviewing and how that kind of works and making sure that candidates still have that same experience with us. So that's really just taken the form of things that we can't quite do as much are, of course, campus tours. We can't do job fairs and career events. We usually offer hands-on shadowing experiences to candidates as well, but we've been able to kind of adjust those into different like project presentations and interactive videos and everything. So things are definitely a little bit different, but we are really lucky to be in an industry that allows for all of that change. And we actually can, back kind of when we just established our interview process, we made it so that everything could be done virtually for those students that maybe couldn't make it to Harrisburg or are just from a little further away. So that was really great to kind of prepare us, but we are still aiming to provide that same experience for students and FXers all the same.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just add, I think that fortunately, from an early talent perspective, we've been on really the forefront of it within the company for virtual interviewing, and we've been utilizing tools like that for a couple of years. And there has already been discussions. I mean, hiring at Kohl's right now in general is pretty much on pause just because we're not hiring anyone for our stores while they're closed, and really trying to minimize the other roles that are needed at this point in time. So once we are back full force and need to be hiring, I think that the company as a whole will probably probably be looking at utilizing more virtual options. And I think from our early talent team, we'll be able to really help with that since we have that experience. And similarly, we've always had those, or for the past few years, had those options in place for any students that are not able to physically be at an interview. And for recruiting for stores, that happens much more often than our corporate office brings large groups together for large interview events a few times a year. We've already had discussions that maybe those aren't going to be happening anymore, or at least not happening in the near future. And it does become something more digital. And so we are certainly ready to do that. And the discussions have started about that already, since we have the tools to utilize, and we've had success with it and hired some great candidates that way. So we will just be prepared to continue to use it and probably expand the way that we use it in the future.
And for PPL, we, from a day-to-day work standpoint, had to identify essential personnel. So our control center employees need to be there 24/7. Our line workers certainly need to be out in the field, fixing any down lines and wire issues. Our office personnel, for the most part, is working virtually. So Zoom has become our best friend. Everybody is, in contact and continuing with meetings as usual. In terms of, university-specific work, opportunities like this are fantastic to reach individuals on the college campus. We participated in mock interviews. There's some new technology out there. Standout is one of them that I know is being used, where students can do a recorded interview. The system actually asks them the questions, they record their answer, and then employers have the opportunity to review it and provide feedback. So that's been an interesting avenue. My preferred method is still the face-to-face contact with students and actually my peers at work, but making the best of the situation as it stands.
Thank you. So in terms of internships, has your organization considered moving internships to virtual programs?
Well, I'll start. We are certainly looking at that as an option. It is not ideal. Part of the internship experience is actually, what the interns are able to do together as a cohort. There's a lot of interaction, networking events, and so on. So the virtual experience would certainly change that. And there's also, the ramping up period. I'll say the first 2 weeks of an internship are really diving into the business, understanding, the employees that they're going to be working with, kind of building partnerships, and it will be more difficult in a virtual situation to replicate that experience. So it's certainly being looked at, and it's a better option than canceling the internship program. So certainly, I think everything will be done, as much as possible to continue with it, whether, it's a matter of delaying it a little bit or going the virtual option if that's what it takes.
Yeah, we're fairly similar. We've certainly been brainstorming ideas and coming up with contingency plans if that is the only option. If there's, stay at home or shelter in place orders much longer than we all, I think, hope or anticipate. And I think I had mentioned at the beginning that it probably would work for certain positions, while others it would be a challenge. That I recruit for the stores position and be very hard to have a full virtual internship for that, since it's all so hands-on in the store, in the building, learning the processes. Some of our corporate roles, though, like technology, that could be something that could be done virtually for a full 7-week internship. One thing we are doing that we have already decided will definitely be moving virtually is our sophomore expo that we have every year. So since our internship is just for anyone who's junior standing, we usually hold a event in the spring semester, late spring semester, that's geared towards sophomores, gives them some insight into Kohl's and retail, some professional development opportunities, and then also a promise for a first round interview over the summer to interview for the internship for the next year. So our corporate team holds one, and then us as a field holds one as well. And we're going to be doing those virtually, and we're working on the content right now and what that timeline looks like. But that is something that we've been able to adapt. And I think that, worst case scenario, if we have to go with the virtual option across the board, it's going to look different for different positions. So some might get that full internship, while others, it might just be more of a couple day or virtual type experience that is going to provide something for them, but it might not be the entire program itself. So we are continuing to keep those plans in the back of our mind and work through them in case we do get to that point. But obviously hoping we don't have to.
Kat, you're virtual anyway, right?
Yes. So some of our internships are actually virtual internships to begin with, but it's pretty split. So we're, of course, always open to a virtual program. It's more or less something that we don't really have to consider it, just because it is something we can do. And of course, the whole team is currently remote. So our timeline is really looking the same. It's just going to be a fact of probably, the internship might start out remote. And then if it was an internship that would have been in-house on our FX campus, then of course, halfway through the summer, depending, of course, how everything goes, they might just move back to in-house. So it's just kind of going to be rolling with the punches, but again, lucky enough to say that our timeline isn't really changing, and we do have the really great opportunity to make all of our positions virtual for the time being, or as long as needed.
Great, thank you. So as far as recruiting, that certainly is going to change. So have you thought about plans yet to engage and conduct recruiting with Penn State students for the upcoming academic year? Any thoughts to that process yet?
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's definitely a lot more emphasis on making sure that our job boards are updated for Penn State students, being really kind of approachable and accessible to them as well. And also just kind of, connecting with the Career Center is such an awesome resource to have, and to do virtual kind of informational sessions, or I'm doing a LinkedIn presentation with Penn State in a couple weeks. So really just doing that and kind of getting in front of students, letting them know that, there are still companies looking to hire, and just also making them feel comfortable that there are resources out there if they're in a bit of a panic, and just to kind of help them feel like everything is sort of normal.
Just to do a quick promotion on that, Chris did send a chat to me saying to promote your virtual information session, which is going to be listed on Nittany Lion Careers, and it's going to take place on April 21st. So we got that in.
That's me. Awesome.
No problem. Tori or Brian?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. We have not been brainstorming a ton yet about the fall. I think we are just very hopeful we can do things as close to normal as possible. I know society as a whole is going to look different, and just, social norms probably. So when you think about what career fairs might look like and how those will need to be different, we will certainly be on board for whatever changes the campuses have in place. But I think we are hoping that come fall, we'll be able to really start recruiting as a full normal new year. I think over this summer, the focus is really just on the internship and full-time starts and being able to give them the best experience. And we have been ramping up. I actually go on maternity leave in a month. So I've been leaving a lot of plans for my team for the summer, and we're leaving plans as if we're planning for a normal recruiting year next year. And yes, that might mean some more virtual events, and if that's taking part in virtual career fairs, or just getting, to Kat's point, really savvy with our online postings and making sure we're very available that way for students to apply online and go through a digital process as opposed to meet at the career fair or meet at a campus event. We will certainly be ready to do that. We do that at some campuses and in some markets already, but I think we are hoping that there'll be some sense of normalcy next year, that we can still come to campus in some capacity and recruit the numbers that we normally are looking to recruit. I think we're just need to wait until the fall for that. This summer will just be a lot of focus on the hires that we've brought in already.
And for PPL, I think similar to what Tori said, we haven't really done a lot of planning for the fall at this point. It would certainly be our optimistic hope that we can move ahead, as close to normal as possible. But, certainly flexibility is there. Flexibility is the name of the game for anything, in the coming months. So whether it's virtual career fairs or participating in events of this nature, certainly, PPL will be a player and a participant with Penn State and various opportunities.
Great. So because a lot of the interviewing process is going to be virtual, what advice can you give to students to best prepare for interviewing virtually?
I can start there just because we have utilized this tool. Like I mentioned, there's specific campuses and markets that we've really gone digitally over the past couple of years. So we have been utilizing tools. We utilize HireVue as the application for both recorded interviews and live interviews. And so we do both of those options for students. It's usually a two-pronged process, a first interview and a final interview. That first one would be a recorded one where you're going to just get someone asking you the question on the screen and you record yourself answering that question, and then somebody will review your whole interview at once and submit feedback. The in-person digital interview would be more so like a Skype or using Zoom, where you're actually just video chatting with the person. And so it does give you that ability to have the back and forth conversation and for them to get to know you. It's just not in person. So I think for both of those, you want to prepare the same way you would prepare for an in-person interview in terms of research and researching the company, the positions, why you want to work for them. What I would say is that the questions are going to be the same digitally that they're going to be in person. So from that standpoint of preparation, there's really no difference than an in-person interview. The biggest advice I can give from a recorded interview standpoint, I know those are most likely the more uncomfortable ones, and we've certainly gotten feedback about that. And it's not natural or comfortable for anybody to answer an interview question without having somebody there to give them feedback or facial expressions. So that part of it is hard. We actually send a video out, and I think a lot of companies are in the same boat that we send a video out before you do the recorded interview that explains, like, we understand, we get that this is awkward and it's not ideal. We are not judging you based off of that. If you stumble over your words or get distracted that something went by and you turned this way, that is not what a decision is based upon. It is really based upon the answers, what you're saying, your passion. So try not to get hung up in the discomfort of it, and just try and answer the questions as truthfully and honestly as you can. That's really what we're looking at. We coach anyone who's reviewing those interviews so that they are aware about that standard, and they are not judging you based off of maybe the room's kind of dark, or again, you get distracted for a minute. So don't let that get into your head too much. And then I think both for a recorded one and also an in-person one, you do just want to make sure you still have that professional standard. So really put in the time and effort to think about, where am I doing this? Have I tested out my audio? Does that all work? Do I still look professionally dressed, at least from the top up, so that it is mimicking as much as you can a real interview setting? So that's probably the best advice I can give on that front. But trust me, we get that it is not ideal, and we take that into account.
Great.
Yeah, I would definitely say the same thing. It's honestly very, very helpful to kind of like get up and prepare yourself, like maybe take a shower, get dressed, because it'll put you more in like a professional feel, rather than, I know might wear pajama pants on my bottom every day. But it just kind of puts you more in that, like, I'm about to do an interview, and might make you feel comfortable. And also just, trying to find like a place that's generally quiet. Of course, whatever is available to you. We would never make a decision on, my cat walks behind me all the time. That's definitely not what we're looking at, just like Tori said. But yeah, so just kind of treating it like an in-person interview. It's just as important, and you want to make as good of an impression as you would want to in person.
I think they both covered it very well. The only additional thing that I will say is, having just listened to some of the recorded interviews yesterday, interviews typically are very interactive, and the recorded interview was obviously very one way. And this may be a little difficult for, the novice interviewers. But thinking, there's a question asked, but thinking beyond that, what might the next question be? Like if somebody was really having a conversation with me, adding on a little bit to the response, thinking what else would they ask me if they were sitting across the desk from me? Because there were, two particular situations in what I was watching yesterday where I was like, all right, you told me this, but what about this? So kind of stepping back and thinking of it being conversational, what might somebody else ask if they were sitting across from you? I think that would add just a little bit to the quality of the response.
The only other thing I will add, Brian just made me think of it with the recorded piece, since it is hard, since you don't have that other person there to ask you a question or provide feedback, like, okay, great, like good answer, you can stop talking now. If you're given 5 minutes, that's the time we give actually for a recorded answer. You do not need to use all 5 minutes. So do not feel like you need to ramble on. That's the other thing I see a lot is people just talking to talk because they have that time allotted. If you feel like you've answered the question sufficiently, that is perfectly okay. That's one thing we see often.
Good. I think those are great tips. I have one more question about virtual career fairs, and then we'll get to some of the student questions and faculty questions. The question I have is about virtual career fairs. Have you attended one? Are you planning on attending them? Obviously, the longer we go into this sort of social distancing, virtual career fairs are going to be the way to engage with students. What is your feelings on them, and how do you best interact in those environments if you've done a virtual career fair in the past?
I'll start. I have not personally participated in a virtual one. However, I will have the opportunity coming up. I was to be in Careers for the Disabled and Wounded Warriors career fair in Washington, D.C. on Friday. That was postponed and rescheduled as virtual in May. So that'll be my first experience and opportunity. It is my understanding from what I know that there's more like a literal waiting line of individuals that might come into your booth. So I would suspect that participants would, much like they do at a real career fair, get in the line that they want to participate in and then wait in line to speak to someone directly.
Yeah, I have participated in a couple. I will be honest, historically the ones I've participated in personally, we've never gotten too much from it. We definitely see a better return from the in-person career fair. I think though, if schools and opportunities are moving to the visual arena, we're going to have much more students on there, so it may be more productive for us. I think the frustration from my standpoint that I've usually seen is I notice more so which you always get a decent amount of this at a regular career fair as well, but even from the virtual career fair, a lot of students will just, since it is chat, you're chatting with them, like you're texting them or emailing them back and forth through a messaging system usually, is they'll just, come in and say, hi, what opportunities do you have? And that's it. And so it is frustrating to have to, and you can copy and paste it, but still, for students to not do the research ahead of time, even for a virtual career fair, hopefully they are coming into it and knowing at least some information about what companies are going to be there and what opportunities they have, so that if you are going to be spending that time and the lines can get long from the virtual standpoint, that you can really be talking to people that are truly interested in the opportunity that you have, as opposed to just saying like, who are you? What's your company? And what do you have to offer? Those conversations don't usually go somewhere. The ones that do go somewhere is someone that understands who we are and what we're recruiting for. So I think you can definitely see some good results, especially if it's going to go that fashion for some of the larger events. And students are just prepared to come with that information to make the time valuable for everybody.
Yeah, I haven't done any yet. I actually have my first one tomorrow, so I'm really excited just to kind of see how it might be structured and how it'll go. But I think it's really, really great that schools are continuing to do that because it offers the same kind of opportunity for employers and students. And again, is that like little bit of normalcy? Like students won't feel panicked because they were banking on this career fair and then don't have it. So I think it's an awesome way to connect employers and students still. I do think, because I know that the chat feature is something I've been hearing a lot about for the different fairs. I'm interested to see how it goes. I think also a resume drop even might be really, really useful, which might not necessarily be classified as a fair, but it does allow interested students that know something about your company to show that they're interested and would welcome you reaching out. And then you can kind of set up a time to have that conversation and dive a little bit deeper into their interests and really get to know each other rather than maybe like having to wait in that waiting line, it sounds like. And it might be a little bit more personal.
Great, thank you so much. So we want to get to some of the student questions that we have out there, and I want to introduce two of my colleagues who are going to be asking those questions, sort of tag teaming it here. The first one is Sue Chappell. She's the Employer Engagement Manager at UPark. And my partner in crime, Zach Folder, who's the Western Region Western Employer Engagement and Career Specialist. So we kind of tag team the state. So do you have a question, a first question to get started?
We do. So our first question is from a student who is majoring in information sciences and technology. They had 2 internships lined up for the summer, and unfortunately, they were canceled. They were curious if anybody has heard of opportunities for IST interns at this time.
So we as a company don't have a big IT department because I think that tech companies would probably be a really good place to look. And even just doing a search as to what companies are hiring in your area because like IT is a very necessary role. We just as a company, we use it more internally than we do as a service, so we don't add to it as much. But I'd say that's a really good place to start is to check out what industries are hiring for the summer for internships, and then see if any align with your interests and check out that department. Because I think that it's a good area that is still really necessary, even with everything going on.
I was listening to a webinar last week, and there were various college participants involved, as well as some companies that really have expertise in the area of internships. And one of the suggestions that someone made, actually, I believe it might have been their own student child who had an internship lined up for the summer and had it canceled given the circumstances. And they actually posted their picture and just a little information about themselves on LinkedIn, and that they were seeking, and I believe it was also an IT internship, that their internship was canceled for the summer, and they heard almost immediately from several companies that were looking for someone.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, both for IST, but also really for anyone who's in the situation, the really unfortunate situation that your internship got canceled. And I think you'll just need to get really savvy and sit down and think about, okay, who would be hiring right now? Who is thriving from, or not thriving, but who's still continuing to grow? Who do you see out there that's still hiring part-time workers? I mean, it really even varies. Like sometimes within industries, there are certain places. So for example, within retailer, there are retailers and obviously grocery chains that are in need of people right now, and really probably still going forward with normal programs. For IST, I do think, that is at least a field that can very easily be virtual, but you just need to really think about and go start looking and researching to see, okay, who would still be hiring that maybe, even though it's short notice right now, somebody might still be looking to fill some roles. And I think it also is the time that I know a lot of students, and especially Penn State has so many connections with a lot of these big companies, and you can, get into really robust internship programs. It still is really valuable, even if you can do something on a much smaller scale. So if you have friends or family or somebody that has a business or something of that nature, that you can get something that it might not be as robust of a program as you were originally in or planning for. Really, any experience is going to be helpful. So while it might not be for the company or industry that you want to work for long term, just get your foot in the door somewhere, and that will still be helpful in the future. So that's probably the best advice I can give. We are not hiring obviously any more internship roles right now, so we don't have anything available, but I think you just have to think of it in terms of that way and get a little savvier than just looking on a general job board.
Thanks, Tori. I just wanted to add a Penn State perspective to this for the student who asked this question. 2 caveats. 1, check out Nittany Lion Careers, because that is where our employer partners are currently posting. We're averaging about 30 new job opportunities a day going into the system. So we do know our companies are still hiring. And so start there first. Second, just be mindful when you're looking at other online job boards, including LinkedIn, just to do your due diligence that the recruiter you're talking with remotely is actually a recruiter. Because unfortunately, we do have scammers out there who will pose as recruiters. So we have some guidelines online for students as to best practices on how to vet opportunities with employers. So we would definitely recommend that you take a look at those too.
Thank you, Sue. Yeah, so for our next question, we had another student that asked at your organizations, curious about how the transition to working remotely has impacted project work at your respective organizations, and how you guys are kind of approaching that now as we've been shifting into more of a remote work and kind of a virtual environment.
That's a great question. So for us, it's been pretty seamless, and it's just a lot more kind of Google Meets and Google Hangouts when you need to touch base with your team. But we do have a lot of, being a tech company, again, we kind of have an online base camp sort of system where we can communicate that way and be pretty transparent over our projects, which makes collaboration and communication really, really easy for us. So not much has changed. Again, similar to interviewing, we've been able to kind of keep going. Just communication is taking a bit of a different form.
So for my team specifically, I actually essentially always work remotely. My team of 4, we are remote across the country. The rest of our team is based at our corporate office, but they travel all the time and are very familiar with working remotely. So for our team, it really hasn't caused much of a hiccup. I actually think that we do more video chatting now and see each other's faces more than we normally do, just because everyone's doing it now. So we're utilizing the tool more often. I think there's certain roles that, again, are based at our corporate office that usually go into the office 5 days a week, and they are now remote. So it was a little bit of an adjustment for them, but it is a lot of the work that's done on a computer. It's easy for them to still be doing it and hasn't caused many hiccups. There obviously are large parts of our business, though, that have been hugely impacted impacted in areas that just can't work remotely. So all of our store locations and things of that nature, and really even our e-fulfillment centers and credit call centers that are remaining open, they still have had to completely change how they do things to make sure that it's safe for our associates that are still going into those jobs. So it's really depends on the part of the business that you're in, how much it has impacted. But fortunately, anyone who works from a computer has been able to make that transition pretty seamless. And we're still seeing our projects and work that needs to be done getting done at the speed it usually does.
And for us, the nature of our business being what it is, there have been, major shifts, some even, from a regulatory standpoint. So, where we had plans for the next 5 years for $14 billion of infrastructure improvements and build outs, some of those have been required to put on hold, where crews would be out doing tree trimming and other, maintenance type work. That has been put on hold. And, our crews are now, more specifically devoted to emergency line repairs and so on. So from a business perspective, it's had a major disruption for an organization that has not done a lot of remote work. Managers getting up to speed with now, leading teams of 15 to 20 people who are all virtually working from somewhere different. There have been, certainly some adjustments. I think it's actually a positive. It's a great managerial learning experience in learning how to manage people in a different way. So major adjustments for us with priorities continuing to shift, and we have to keep the lights on and the electric flowing to the hospitals where these patients are. So what we're in the business that life and death matters, and we're also bringing electricity to all the homes where everyone is now working remotely and charging their phones and computers. So we have to have our mind always on the core nature of the business, and the rest of us supporting it from the background how we can.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. Our next question comes from a student who is curious about whether your companies or companies that are similar to yours hire rising sophomores for internship opportunities, so between a freshman and sophomore year.
We have some internships that will look more for sophomores. And generally, if it's the summer going into your sophomore year, we'll consider you a sophomore. So I think it just depends for us specifically. I know that there are some other companies that will look specifically at certain years. So we do have a handful that will look for sophomores in particular. And then we have others that will look for juniors, and sometimes we'll look for seniors to kind of get that foot in the door.
For us, our model has shifted over the years, and previously we would hire, students freshman through senior year for internship opportunities. The past 3 years, this now being the fourth, the focus has been on hiring more juniors with the intent of giving them full-time offers before they go back for their senior year. So we've shifted more to the junior model, but I had 2 sons that graduated from Penn State, and both of them in their sophomore year did internships on campus, and then junior year looked for something externally.
We unfortunately do not hire sophomores into our internship program. We are pretty strict that you need to be a junior or going into your final year of school. But we do offer, as I mentioned earlier, that sophomore expo experience to be able to give you some insight and also have a chance to early interview and early apply for the next summer's programs. And the reasoning for that is really that our internship program is very strongly conversion based. So our main goal is to hire our full-time employees from that. And we just have not seen the success rate with sophomores staying on for a second internship and coming on full-time to really make that a value add for us. And our main goal is to be able to bring you on full-time with the company after you graduate.
Thanks, Tori. Our next question is kind of along the same lines, but regarding international students. So do any of your organizations give any consideration to hiring international students for your internship programs?
Yeah, we definitely do. Sponsorship is always something that we pursue for the right candidate. We always want to be fully transparent that we have had some trouble getting approved in the past just because they sometimes will err on the side of larger companies and we're more mid-sized. So we always kind of make that distinction, but it's absolutely something that we like to pursue for the perfect candidate.
For us, it's not the norm. However, there have been, and I believe this summer there's one, out of the 50 intern cohort. So not typical, but like Kat said, if it is absolutely the right person for the right situation, it can and has been done.
Yeah, that's similar at Kohl's. It is very rare that we do it, and it's really on a by position basis. So for my role for store management, we are not able to sponsor students for some of the more specific roles and mainly technology positions and things of that nature. There have been situations where we've been able to do it and get that approval, but it really is a small group of people that we've been able to do that for over the past few years, and for some very just specific positions.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. Our next question, somebody did ask about transforming, if you decide to make the decision to transform an internship program into a virtual experience, when will that be made? And before we spend too much time on this, I'm thinking everybody had kind of voiced that it's fluid and you're waiting for more insight into what is going to happen. But I just wanted to confirm that. Did anybody have anything else to offer? Is that still pretty much where you're coming from?
The only other thing, Sue, that becomes a consideration is we do have students that come from a distance, and we do have housing arrangements with Muhlenberg College, which is located not too far from our headquarters. They have great apartments that are available during the summer, and they do lease them out to summer interns. We have not heard from them whether or not they are going to be making them available. They were actually one of the first colleges to close down under the circumstances with the current situation. So that could become a factor as we get closer, that also becomes a consideration for whether we move forward or not.
Thank you, guys. So the next question is of similar scope, and I think we've kind of discussed it, but just if there's anything that anyone wanted to add. Just talking about your organization's openness to being to transitioning into more of a project-based remote internship, something that would still allow the student to gain that experience, even if it was on a on an abbreviated time frame. Is there anything additional that any of you three would like to add on that point?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think it's what we had all said before. We're just coming up with the contingency plans, and
Sure.
We'll have to make that decision sometime over the next month or so. But
Cool.
Yeah, keeping the
Wonderful.
aim to make it as, fulfilling and educational still as an in-house internship would be. But it really is, it just kind of transitioning to maybe virtual trainings, more projects that you'll kind of collaborate over Google Meets, but utilizing our resources to ensure that the student will still benefit as well as we will.
Thank you, guys. Now we have a question, and I am not sure if I fully understand it. So the person will recognize their question if they want to throw something else into the chat. It says, if students are out of state, are there any possible positions available to them with your companies? So I'm guessing it doesn't matter to you guys whether a student is out of state, be it remote or face-to-face, correct?
We have students from all over the country in our internship program. So, if they meet the 50-mile requirement, if they're more than 50 miles from home, that's when, they have the opportunity to reside in the apartments at Muhlenberg College. We also provide a partial housing stipend to cover the cost of that.
Yeah, we're not picky with location either. I would say the only good thing to keep in mind is maybe don't apply for an internship fully banking on it being remote the entire time. So like if you maybe are from Florida and apply for an internship in Harrisburg, if it is one that's usually in-house and everything is lifted and we're all okay to go back into the office, we would ideally want to have our intern back in the office. So just something good to keep in mind.
yeah, and normally when we are hiring, we would be hiring across the country. We do have stores across the whole country. So even if we meet you at Penn State, you go through the interview process, but you're from Alabama, we'll connect with that recruiter there and connect you to be able to find an opportunity that's at home.
Thank you, guys.
I think we have time for one more question, Zach.
Perfect. This is the last one in the chat, so we timed that quite well. So from your guys' perspective, for the three of you, and given the current circumstances right now, and being that they are quite unique, what can soon-to-be graduates and/or current students be doing right now if they are still looking for either internships or full-time positions? What are you hearing about where recruiters are posting jobs and internships? Where can students be looking? Is LinkedIn a good place still, or have things changed at all here given the current situation?
I'm just going to echo Sue from a little while ago. I think always the best first place is through Nittany Lion Careers or through your campus's career site. I think that's going to be the most trustworthy option. And in times where things are constantly changing, I think that's probably where things are going to be the most up to date, just with companies who are either pulling their positions because they're not hiring anymore, or the companies who are still hiring are going to be actively posting them there. So I think that's always a great first place. I do still think, though, LinkedIn is, has certainly changed over the past few years how that is utilized, and you're still going to see positions and postings there. I think, again, just to Sue's point, make sure that if you message somebody or chatting with somebody, you obviously want to make sure that it is somebody who is truthful and truly recruiting. But companies who are in need of people and in need of hires are definitely going to continue to utilize LinkedIn to post their positions, because it is a way to reach the masses through one job post. So I think that both of those avenues are still completely valid. It just might take a little bit more research and that strategic thinking about, okay, what are going to be my best options? What companies, what industries are really going to be needing people and looking to do a lot of hiring in these next couple of months if you're looking for something or graduating now and need to start soon.
Yeah, I would say definitely the same thing as Tori. Also check out the company's career page. We posted an update, so there's like a big banner at the top that says that we're continuing our process. So most likely, if a company is still recruiting, they want you to know as much as you want to know if they are. So check out their page kind of first and foremost, but definitely utilize your school's jobs, your job board. Employers have a wonderful relationship with Penn State, and they want you guys to see those postings. So that is a really, really good first place to start.
And the only other thing I'll add is, in addition to LinkedIn, I think Indeed is still, a great resource in terms of opportunities. The only thing I always caution students is reliance on the internet versus personal contact. There is nothing more valuable than networking, and that means having conversations with people. So, particularly as a senior, it's a great opportunity to, be in contact with people, have conversations. I will, readily admit that every job I've had through my entire career has been through networking conversations. You learn about job opportunities before oftentimes they even get posted. Or if you impress someone enough, they will remember you when a job does come open, that you took the initiative to reach out, have a conversation. And when you're networking, it's really asking for people for a conversation. It's not asking them for a job. And then it's conversations that lead to a job.
Okay, thank you all so very much. I want to put up, in case there are some more questions specifically for our panelists, I want to share their email addresses with you, and also remind you, next week we're going to have another Talk to the Recruiters. This will be on healthcare fields, so anyone in RHS, nursing, or any of the health-related fields may want to join us. We will have a community services group here, CSG, as well as Allegheny Health Network and St. Luke's Health Network as well. So thank you very much, all of our panelists, for sharing so much valuable information with us. We really do appreciate it. And thank you all. Have a great day, and everyone stay very safe.